Let's go.
Get your copy of Fire. It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
The once goal-driven, ambitious Sapphire turns to the street life after the sudden death of her big brother Dre. Dre's best friend Devontae tries to honor his homeboy's last request of looking out for his baby sister. A rebellious Sapphire makes it very difficult for Devontae to carry out his promise.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I am Bro.Nasir. Today's title: How many cops are domestic abusers? You know, the police will answer a domestic abuse call chest out, angry, rightfully so, telling a man that he shouldn't hit a woman. He's right. A man shouldn't hit a woman. A man shouldn't beat his wife. Yet, if a woman doesn't comply with a police officer's order, that police officer will turn violent, just as violent with a woman as they do with a man. I've seen women lose their child, women who are about 6-7 months pregnant, lose their child because a cop slammed her down to the ground on her stomach, held her down on her stomach with his knee on her back, or literally beat the woman while she's pregnant. I've seen state troopers on the highway in Los Angeles straddle a woman. He said he was trying to save her from going and getting hit by a car. But to save her, he repeatedly punched her in the face, trying to save her, had her down on the ground, beating her MMA style. And they'll respond to a domestic call being very self-righteous, saying, "You're a punk for putting your hands on a woman." He's right. Yet the statistics say 41% of police officers beat their wives, and it's covered up. Even if their wife is a fellow officer, she can sign a complaint on him. It will go unanswered. It will actually go unnoticed. They will cover it up. It's been times where women complained about domestic violence in their home and their husband is a cop. It wasn't investigated. And somebody ended up being killed in that scenario. All because the rank and file, the internal affairs, wouldn't investigate the domestic violence accusation. Back in 2014 in New Jersey, I'm going to show that video. A police officer shot and killed his wife right in front of his daughter and his rank and file. They did nothing to stop him from killing that woman. She reached out for help. Nobody helped her. He had her in a car with his child, and he shot and killed her in front of fellow officers. They did nothing to save that woman. Nothing. Now, I'm going to share my screen and show some of the videos and the examples of how 41% of cops are domestic abusers. It's not just male cops, it's cops in general, because cops have this perceived power. They are told that they have power. People are supposed to listen to them and comply with them. And they don't know how to turn that off. When they go home and their wife don't listen to them, their children don't listen to him. If it's the flip side, their husband don't listen to them, their children don't listen to them, they become the same way they do on the job. Very violent. They become violent because they want to be heard. They want people to capitulate and acquiesce to them, to their orders. And if they don't get it at once, they become very violent. It gets outright ridiculous.
Shares custody of her 4-year-old son with New Orleans police officer Alfred Moran. Never married, their breakup was contentious, and it has spilled over into family court.
There was a dispute over custody?
There was a dispute over custody. He filed paperwork saying that he wanted to be domiciled parent.
Custody fights can be emotional, complicated, sometimes downright nasty. But one development in Ballard's custody dispute was clear. Clear because it was caught on video. This surveillance video shows Ballard confronting Officer Moran in uniform on the Endymion parade route in 2014. She admits she was agitated because it was his night to take care of their son.
I just kept asking the same question over and over again. Where's my son? Where's my son if you are in uniform and you're supposed to be at work?
Ballard did not get an answer, so she left. But it was what happened later that night that really shook her.
Jefferson Parish comes knocking on the door. We have a warrant for Christina Ballard's arrest. And I was like, what? I'm in jail crying and like I didn't start crying until they actually closed the door on me because I was still in shock.
Arrested at her home in Marrero, she was booked in New Orleans and charged in municipal court with domestic abuse battery. Then, this March, she was brought to trial.
I never thought in a million years that they would want this to continue to go to a trial, because we have video. You can clearly see I did not push him 3 times, and I thought that's pretty much what we are here for.
The low point came when Judge Joseph Landry came back with the verdict: guilty.
And he comes out and says, clearly this is domestic battery abuse. I said, what? Excuse me? Seriously? Is this? So I was completely shocked.
So that was the basis for a simple battery conviction.
Ridiculous. That's not battery. I can't believe.
Ballard was fined and sentenced to probation. But equally surprising to Narquise Barak was that a simultaneous internal affairs complaint that Ballard made against Officer Moran went nowhere. Here's the public integrity officer fielding Ballard's complaint.
Basically, your complaint is that you...
Now, she made several complaints against him. Went ignored, unnoticed, uninvestigated. But he went and weaponized his position and had her arrested, tried, and convicted of something she didn't do. Clearly, they have videotape showing other than what he said on the report. So he should have been charged with filing a false report and unbecoming behavior of a police officer.
You're saying that you feel Officer Moran actually filed a false police report.
Barak, a Harvard-trained anthropologist and founder of the Custody Justice Project, has dealt with a number of women with horror stories about their NOPD exes.
A lot of these women then go to the Integrity Bureau to file complaints, and those reports aren't followed through. So they don't have evidence to take to family court with them.
One woman is Leslie St. Germain, who has filed several complaints against her husband, Lieutenant Terry St. Germain. None of them upheld.
PIB gets involved. They take a report. He's let go, and nothing happens. It's about abuse of power. The power comes from being an NOPD officer.
St. Germain did not want to show her face to protect her daughter, but she did want us to highlight her case, which includes a confrontation at the child's grade school in 2011 in which her ex-husband called police on her.
I'm a police officer, but I've got an issue myself.
And your name?
Terry St. Germain.
See, they don't investigate. They just take the cop's word and they side with the cop no matter what happens.
It's involving a 67.
67 is police code for theft. The lieutenant accused his ex-wife of stealing a shirt he gave his daughter. St. Germain says she was simply holding the shirt after their daughter changed in the bathroom. After his call, she called PIB. Neither the theft allegation or PIB complaint went anywhere. For her, though, the harassment and humiliation had reached a new low.
It's frustrating. I mean, sometimes you go and you cry at night so your child doesn't see you crying.
While the police department didn't step in against Lieutenant St. Germain, the family court judge, Christopher Bruno, did, finding him in contempt of court for harassment, saying he wasted valuable police resources. I documented several other cases with women who, out of fear, did not want to go on camera. This woman, Dominique, was arrested by her ex and convicted of violating a stay-away order by sending him a text message, which she did. But when she said she called police to report him breaking into her apartment, the officers said they couldn't intervene. We took our findings to the office of the Independent Police Monitor. Investigator Ursula Price said she has worked with some of the women to their complaints, but others have given up in frustration.
After talking to you, I intend to review those investigations so that I can help the investigators do a better job in the future. It's a huge catch-22 for those women, right? I mean, the police are their only means of accessing the system that will protect them, right? And if they can't even get through the gate, they can't access any of those other things.
Absolute abuse of power. Just feeling like, hey, I'm Superman. I can do what I want. I can make moves like this and can get away with
It's
it.
shameful. He's a punk for that. He's a straight up punk for that. Now we're going to move on to the next video. It gets really ugly when someone perceived power, want to abuse the power, and abuse the power by beating and manipulating and using police sources, weaponizing police sources to punish their woman.
You can be all like polite and smarmy and do all the cheesy smiles and all that sort of stuff. But he's a monster. He still scares me to this day.
Nearly 130 women have now come forward since 2019 with claims of being raped, beaten, controlled, sometimes for decades.
Why isn't he being held accountable for how he treated us and the pain that all of us went through?
What links all of these women is that the alleged abuser was their serving police officer partner.
Everyone is linked in the police. It's a boys' club. Police are supposed to be there to be trusted, and they're not. I can't trust them.
They are a fraternity, Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP. They swore to protect and serve each other. It has nothing to do with serving and protecting citizens. They are a gang, they are a fraternity, and they have that blue code of silence, and they seldom cross it. And if you do cross it, 9 times out of 10, you're in danger for crossing that blue line of silence.
A former police commander told Channel 4 News the sheer volume of cases was an epidemic. We have independently spoken to 14 women. All claim there had been a failure by detectives to investigate their own officers. Some even alleged police used their power and status to control and manipulate cases. Many told us there was a culture of cover-ups where survivors felt silenced.
It was when I was 5 months pregnant and I wasn't allowed to see people, friends, even my parents. And I just sat crying my eyes out.
He sort of love bombed you at the beginning.
He did, yeah.
And then his behaviour changed.
It could range from, you know, grabbing my hair and making me perform oral sex. He raped me and then said, right, you better get up and do me some breakfast. Hurt my dog. Kicked him when he attacked him after I screamed.
Your sons had a name for your dog.
Yeah, they used to call him my rape alarm.
For nearly 20 years, Stacey felt trapped in an abusive relationship, but to the outside world, her husband was a respected police officer. Tonight, we can reveal that Stacey is one of over 100 women who have contacted the Centre for Women's Justice, claiming their police officer partners had abused them.
All the women we've spoken to claim that their allegations have not been taken seriously by detectives.
Now, there seems to be a distinct theme in all of these women's stories. Domestic abuse carried out by police officers leaves the partners feeling doubly powerless. They have helplessness that many victims of domestic abuse already feel, but that's compounded by the fact that their police officer partner, their abuser, is part of a system which is supposed to protect them.
He was physically violent to our children. Our son has scars on him. He was 8 at the time, put him off of his metal bunk bed onto his drum kit, and it pierced his side. He would literally...
The police, a lot of them juice, and they become psychotic from being on those steroids. It only magnify the bad behavior that they already engage in. The steroids with the perceived power and the utter wickedness of them being in the gang, it only magnifies their already wicked, tyrannical behavior.
Explode at them, and they used to run into their bedrooms and shut the door. The youngest son used to barricade his door. The oldest one used to have his window open so he could run out the window if he come and got him. We left because he threatened to slit my throat and watch me choke on my blood as I sleep.
Not long after, Stacey reported the rape, domestic abuse of her and her children to the police force where her partner used to be based in the Child Protection Unit.
They were all of his mates. He was in there for 15 years. So how are you supposed to have an objective view to a bloke that everyone knows?
When a claim of domestic child abuse is raised, ordinarily social services would be informed, but Stacey says nobody ever contacted her, and in 2019 she is told the case against her ex-husband is being dropped.
To them, it's case closed. He is able to go and be a predator on somebody else, and he is a predator.
We contacted the police force in question, who confirmed her ex-partner, who denies all.
If this woman would have ended up protecting herself from him and things went bad and somebody got hurt or worse, they will be blaming her when they did nothing about him. And that's a damn shame. He goes out, he's respected. And that's most case scenario with the ignorant among us respecting these tyrants who walk around wanting to be seen as a hero, abusive as hell, and does no heroism, cowards with a belt full of weapons, still scared, hateful, and abusive.
All the allegations, was interviewed, but there was insufficient evidence to proceed, and that details were shared with safeguarding agencies. Of the nearly 130 cases, not one woman feels they've got justice. A Freedom of Information request by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism found from 2015 to 2018, there were almost 700 reports of domestic violence involving police officers and staff in England and Wales. That's more than 4 times a week on average, but police accused of domestic abuse are much less likely to be convicted than the general public.
The key theme is the reports being sort of brushed under the carpet, right up to cases where there seems to have been sort of deliberate sabotage, where evidence has gone missing. There are personal links between the suspect and the investigators. So we've got women who, one woman who found out that the investigator was in the same football team, in the force as the suspect. So there's that feeling of people are intermeshed.
They investigate themselves and they find no wrongdoing because they investigate themselves. Internal affairs, if internal affairs have, somebody's a friend, they're not just going to do their job and throw their friend under the bus, no matter how wrong he is or she is. They're going to back their friend. They're going to attempt to cover it up. It's going to have to be that type of officer who arrested Dale Holtzclaw. She didn't care. These were civilian women who were being sexually assaulted by Dale Holtzclaw. And it was a female detective who actually believed the women. And he subsequently was arrested, tried, convicted, and sentenced to over 200 years in prison. And he was doing what he was doing in uniform to those women, pulling them over, hoping that they had warrants, and manipulating the calls. But he pulled one woman over too many, who was a businesswoman, and she wasn't going for it. She and her family wasn't going for it.
Do you think your ex-partner was given special treatment because he was a police officer?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. He's even got a job now within a team which is supposed to protect people.
But the force deny the officer was given special treatment. To this day, Stacey's ex-partner continues to work for the police in a civilian role at a unit protecting women and children, while Stacey...
He works in a unit that protect women and children. That is mockery after she was done the way she was done by him for decades. That's where they put him at. They're mocking her. That's what they're doing.
And dozens of women like her feel silenced by a system which they claim, instead of protecting them, favours its own officers.
We've been away from him for like 3 years now. But the legacy left behind is just fear, anxiety, especially when I have flashbacks. So I don't sleep much now because all I do is get memories.
Move on to the next video. 41% of police officers abuse their partners. Wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, 41%.
He can be all like polite and smarmy and do all the cheesy smiles and all that sort of stuff. But he's a monster.
Well, after a story aired here on ABC 10 about a Stockton police sergeant accused of sexual misconduct, 2 more women are now coming forward. Just days ago, one of the attorneys for the alleged victims shared graphic details about the case. ABC 10's Kurt Rivera has the developments.
Sergeant Nicholas Blode, a 14-year veteran with the Stockton Police Department, now facing more serious accusations while wearing his badge on duty.
I'm surprised that only 2 other women have come forward at this point, given how egregious and this over-the-top reckless the sergeant's conduct has been.
The new accusations stem from a February 21st meetup Gillian says happened at a Stockton motel while Blode was on duty. According to Gillian, Blode had been in a relationship with a female escort for several years and arranged a sex date with the escort, who on this night was reluctant to take part in.
And he says, I'm on my way. And so she gets this other woman, a friend, to stay there and say, hey, can you just be here? Because maybe when he shows up and he sees that there's somebody else with me, he'll just turn around and go away.
But Gillian says Blode stayed and coerced both women to have sex with him. Fast forward to April, and one of the women is involved in testifying in a separate abuse case.
While they were there with the DA's investigators, they said, hey, we're going to show you this.
Gillian says this was her phone, filled with sexting messages between the woman and sergeant. And what Gillian says are the actual texts. The sergeant uses the name Jay in conversations and asks in one, quote, before I go, can you send me a pic? And quote, gotta take one for me? Graphic sexual images are then exchanged. As for the Stockton Police Department, they will not confirm or deny any more women have come forward in this case. They do say it is an active investigation and encourage anyone with additional information to contact them.
Now, the Stockton Police Officers Association released a statement saying, in part, they are shocked and disturbed to learn of the accusations. If criminal accusations are found to be true against any person, officer or civilian, that person needs to be held accountable.
Absolutely. But we're not talking about
A Hialeah police sergeant is facing federal charges tonight following his arrest by the FBI. He's accused of sexually assaulting women and girls while on duty. The charges could put Sergeant Jesus Menacol Jr. in prison for life.
Just minutes ago, the police chief in Hialeah announced that Menacol had been terminated. CBS 4's Peter Dench is live outside the federal courthouse in Miami, where he made his first appearance this afternoon. Peter?
Well, Elliot en route of a Sergeant Jesus Menacol Jr. is facing charges in 2 cases dating back more than 4 years. And as you mentioned, he faces life behind bars if convicted in one of those cases. Now, we did speak with one victim's mother. She's truly grateful that the charges have been filed. Hialeah Police Sergeant Jesus Menacol Jr. was initially accused of sexually abusing 4 females while on the job. Now he's charged with depriving the rights of 2 of them under the color of law. Cases from January and June of 2015. This woman tells us she is one of the victims.
This is what happens when the police have qualified immunity. This is what happened when they witness fellow officers do heinous acts and get away with it. They feel they can get away with it also, and it just escalate and escalate. And they just abuse their power. They prey on the vulnerable. Those who they think are vulnerable, those who they think are weak, those who they think are easily manipulated. They are predators. If they corner someone who they think is afraid of them or afraid of any consequence that he may have for them, they'll take advantage of that in a very negative manner.
Victims.
And I feel angry. I feel confused.
She says the 32-year-old Menacol forced her to strip and sexually abused her.
Just know that when I left out of that police station, I felt like I left all my dignity. The chief police made it seem like it was a joke. I was like...
And everything she just said is worth somebody spending their life in prison. Everything she just said that happened to her.
Little girl crying rape, basically, outside the police station.
Any comment, Menacall's family members refused to say anything after a hearing, but the victim's mother did speak out.
Bueno, muy contenta. I am very happy that the person has been arrested. He is not going to be able to do any harm now to any other woman. I feel terrible. Every time I think about this, I get very nervous. I cry. He was taking advantage of people because of the uniform he wears.
The Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office had decided not to prosecute Menacall in that case, saying charges could not be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Later, 3 women came forward to say Menacall abused them.
He needs to go to jail. He needs to serve justice. He needs to serve time in jail.
We are now hearing from Hialeah's police chief.
As I have said in the past, this police department has no tolerance for improper behavior. We hold our members accountable for their actions. Sergeant Menacall would be terminated from employment, the Hialeah Police Department.
Now, bond for Menacall was set at $250,000. His attorney, Michael Grieco, said he was glad he was able to secure his release. This afternoon, after the hearing, he said that his client sits not guilty in the eyes of the law, and he was looking forward to finding out much more about the government's case in the upcoming weeks. We're live in Miami. Peter Dench, CBS 4 News.
Now we're going to deal with after her husband's abuse. A woman gives her testimony.
Why police say she broke the law. Even some lawmakers are weighing in. A lot of attention now coming around this arrest.
Yeah, Mark, and
that's crazy because after this video here, after her husband domestic violence arrest, the wife took the guns to the police headquarters and they arrested her for that. And all she was trying to do is get the guns out of the hands of a dangerous ass man. And they arrested her.
that includes one lawmaker who is demanding that the state actually drop the case against her. Courtney Irby was charged with armed burglary and grand theft of a firearm. She told police she worried her.
If they live in the same home, how can she commit a theft? If it's his wife and they live in the same home, how could she commit a theft? She took the guns to the police headquarters and they arrested her for it. That is abuse of power. That is manipulation and abuse of power.
Her estranged husband was not going to turn his guns in once he got out of jail, so she took them and handed them over for safekeeping. Now tonight, his attorney says there is a lot more to this story.
June 14th, Courtney Irby told Bartow police she and husband Joseph Irby, in the midst of divorce, got into an argument outside the Polk County courthouse. They share 2 children. She claims he began ramming his vehicle's front bumper into her rear bumper, yelling and running her off the road. Joseph was arrested for domestic aggravated battery. The next day, Courtney walked into Lakeland Police Department and handed them 2 guns, his. She told an officer she had a temporary injunction against Joseph Irby, broke into his apartment while he was in jail and collected his guns. The officer said, "So you're telling me you committed an armed burglary?" She responded, "Yes, I am, but he wasn't going to turn them in, so I am."
If you did that, that part right there, breaking into his home, that's a no-no under any circumstance. Now, if they were living together and she took the guns and took them to the police headquarters, that'll be different. But you broke into the man's apartment. I didn't know the full story. If you broke into this man's apartment and took his guns, no matter what you did with them, that's a total no-no. You incriminated yourself. You broke the law by doing that.
I am doing it. She was charged with armed burglary and grand theft of a firearm, spending 5 nights in jail. News of the arrest sparked strong reactions from Fred Gutenberg, parent of a Parkland victim, saying you need to release this.
You know, they're saying that she protected herself, but that's not how you do it. Even though if she had told the police that she feared for her life, that he's not going to turn his guns in after he get out, what should have happened, being that he was arrested for domestic battery, automatically his guns are supposed to be taken from him, confiscated, not turned in. His guns supposed to be confiscated. He shouldn't have to voluntarily take his guns in. They should have been confiscated because he's charged with battery.
This woman and protect her from him. And State Attorney Andrew Warren, who called Courtney Irby's arrest a disgrace.
I was absolutely outraged.
State Rep Anna Askamani of Orlando is now advocating for the woman, urging State Attorney Ryan Haas not to prosecute.
When you're looking to law enforcement for help, that type of reaction, I think, was really just misdirected. There absolutely could have been some space to have that dialogue with her and her former partner to mediate.
In all actuality, his gun should have been taken, but by breaking into his place, she jammed herself up. The burglary, that part is what jammed her up, not the part that she took his guns. Again, if they was living in the same place and she grabbed those guns and took them to the PD, that's different. But you were living separate. You had no business going in the man's apartment under no circumstance. What you should have done is, stress how important it was, though sometimes that's on deaf ears. Stress how important it is that his guns are confiscated.
Mediate the situation versus escalated through this type of arrest.
Meanwhile, Joseph Irby's attorney, Robert Petty, says there's more to the story, that Courtney had no right to break into his apartments and that they're concerned she's dramatized the claims. Petty said his client works hard, is a good family man, and that real facts will eventually come out.
We reached out to Courtney Irby and her attorney, but did not hear back, nor did Lakeland Police respond to our requests for an interview. Both Courtney and Joseph Irby are out of jail and back in court on July 16th.
And we're going to Milwaukee, where, not too many sane people in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Civilian or police officer, not too many sane people in Milwaukee.
12 News investigates a Milwaukee police officer.
I don't know why it's buffering like this. Excuse my technical difficulty.
Officer accused of abusing his wife.
He's the same officer who was driving when Milwaukee officer Charles Irvine Jr. died in a high-speed chase and crash. 12 News Nick Bohr is live in Waukesha.
So this dude is just reckless. He was involved in a crash that killed the fellow officer. He's just reckless. He should have been brought up on charges and brought through the ringer way back then.
Tonight, and the officer is in jail there, correct?
That's right, Toya. He was arrested this week and, as you said, was just in court here a little bit ago after his wife came forward this week saying that he had physically abused her at their New Berlin home.
State of Wisconsin versus Matthew Schultz.
The Milwaukee police officer finds himself on the wrong side of the justice system, wearing an orange jail jumpsuit instead of his usual uniform. 14 months ago, he was driving the police car that crashed during a chase, killing Officer Charles Irvine. Now, 37-year-old Matthew Schultz is facing 3 misdemeanor domestic abuse charges, including misdemeanor battery and disorderly conduct.
A lot of these dudes fell through the cracks, were able to wiggle their way in to become police officers. A lot of these guys are insane. And when they get that perceived power, they turn up. They don't think of anything to do but sides. Abuse it.
Facts in this case are obviously frightening, and it appears that there has been domestic violence and intimidation over a couple of years.
According to the criminal complaint, Schulte's wife told New Berlin police he, quote, punched her in the back of the head with a closed fist. She believed the strike caused her a concussion. Further, she says he told her, quote, he wanted to cut her and watch her bleed out. Schulte's wife says the incidents date back to January 2018, well before the crash that killed Officer Irvine, but her husband warned her not to report that because he'd lose his job.
He is employed right now. That employment is he's suspended with pay right now. He does have some mental health issues, Your Honor, and they are being addressed.
The judge will allow Schulte's release from jail, but will make him wear a GPS device and banned him from setting foot in New Berlin, much less their home.
Nick Bohr joining us live once again. And Nick, what is the Milwaukee Police Department saying about this tonight?
Well, police tell me this afternoon that Schulte is still employed with the department, but they wouldn't confirm what his lawyer said in court there, that he is suspended currently with pay.
All right, Nick Bohr, thank you.
Now we're going to Espanola, where another police officer of some BS.
A northern New Mexico police officer is accused of abusing his wife and young son. She filed a restraining order against her husband, who works for the Espanola Police Department. In court documents, she says the officer spit, slapped, and slammed her head into a car window and shoved her into a porch railing. The woman also claims he hit their 5-year-old son in the face, causing a bloody nose. The officer is on paid leave during an internal affairs investigation.
Ultimately, our responsibility is to protect and serve, not to participate in criminal activity.
The alleged victim says she called state police, but officials say
I'm surprised he didn't bite his tongue while he was saying that, because the rank and file, most of these cats, the poorer the city, the more crime that the police commit. These cops don't even make enough money to suffice themselves, so they get into criminal activity, robbery of drug dealers, extortion and the whole nine.
say they have no reports. It's unclear if a state police officer was supposed to have done a report or if there's a criminal investigation underway.
Now we're going to Neptune, New Jersey. Speaking about the story that was
To a Neptune, New Jersey police sergeant due in court today to face a murder charge.
The victim, his ex-wife and mother of his 9 children.
To a Neptune, New Jersey police sergeant due in court today to face a murder charge.
The victim.
Now this is a heinous situation that I was speaking about, where the police sergeant in Neptune, New Jersey, killed his ex-wife right in front of their daughter and his rank and file, and they sat there and watched him do it.
His ex-wife and mother of his 9 children. CBS 2's Janelle Burrell has more live from the Monmouth County Courthouse in Freehold. Janelle?
Well, Chris, it was certainly a tense and chaotic standoff, ending in a spray of bullets, and Tamara Seidel gunned down right in front of the couple's 7-year-old daughter. This morning, Sergeant Seidel due here in court, charged with first-degree murder. Neptune Police Sergeant Philip Seidel on the other side of the law this morning, arrested after an intense standoff for allegedly shooting and killing his ex-wife and then threatening to kill himself in front of their 7-year-old daughter.
It was just like a lot of yelling between him and the police, and then he was doing a lot of yelling, explaining like how he's tired of going to court for child support. And after that, he shot the lady like through the car, like 3 times.
The 51-year-old and his ex, Tamara Seidel, divorced last month and have 9 children together between 7 and 24 years old. Investigators say the youngest child was in the car with Sergeant Seidel when he began chasing his former wife Tuesday morning as she was driving. Around 11:30, they turned a corner onto Sewell Avenue near Ridge Avenue in Asbury Park, where Tamara crashed into a parked car. Police say Sergeant Seidel, who was following in his own vehicle, then got out of his SUV with a handgun and fired several shots into his ex-wife's car.
3 loud gunshots rang off.
Neighbors of the family shaken up and upset for the 9 children now left without their mother.
For these children to be as fine characters that they are, and for them to lose both of their parents in the snap of a finger in one afternoon is a tragedy.
Now, this morning, it's not clear who has custody of those children. As for Sergeant Seidel, he's being held on $2 million bail. If convicted, he faces up to 30 years in prison. Reporting live this morning from Freehold, New Jersey, Janelle Burrell, CBS 2 News.
30 years, it should be life. Straight up life. No 30 years. Life.
New Jersey police sergeant appeared in court this afternoon after he allegedly shot and killed his ex-wife in front of one of their 9 children. CBS News' Christine Sloan was in court and has some new information.
Police Sergeant Philip Seidel in court, his head down and handcuffed, accused of murdering his ex-wife Tammy in cold blood, running her off the road in his car, then shooting her at point-blank range with his service revolver.
Over to her driver's side window and fire inside that car.
Yeah, this is the crazy ass state that I live in. The cops here are just as nutty as the cops in any other state, any other city, just as nutty.
Not once, not twice, but multiple times.
Prosecutors say he fired the shots as their 7-year-old daughter sat in his car. Police responding to the scene, able to pull her out after the next series of shots. Witnesses capturing the tragedy on video that CBS 2 News has chosen not to air.
Stands here today notwithstanding the charges presumed not guilty. He has absolutely no prior criminal record.
It's crazy that a lawyer can actually stand up here and even attempt to justify or defend. This is not defendable. You can't defend this. The man did this in front of his daughter and the rank and file. Why would anyone attempt to defend this?
Absolutely no prior official domestic violence.
So just because he have no prior record, he go past anything you can ever do as far as committing a crime. He goes for the damn gusto and kills his ex-wife in front of their daughter and traumatized her more than likely for life, and the other 8 children that they have. They have 9 children. And he did this. And the lawyer is going to stand there and talk about how he doesn't have a criminal record. He never had any record of domestic violence. He damn sure has some now because he murdered the woman.
Violence record.
We're doing fine, and we're supporting our nephew.
Just really sad and horrific, but we want to respect the kids, and they asked us not to speak.
Friends and family of the former couple from Neptune with 9 children came to court.
You can just imagine, if they were your children, you'd feel the same way.
Friends say Seidel had a history of domestic violence against his ex-wife, but
see, the lawyer said he has no history of domestic violence. But we have to understand that I know for certain, I can almost guarantee, not almost guarantee, I can guarantee that she reported it several times. And it was just covered up. It wasn't looked into. It wasn't investigated. And that's how she ended up being killed by him, because nobody believed her, not necessarily believed her. They just didn't do anything about what she told them. Because an domestic abuser can't go after another domestic abuser. They probably abused their women too. And they did nothing about this woman reporting him being abusive. And it escalated, and she ended up being taken away from her children.
But the court wouldn't give her a final restraining order because of his position as a cop.
She had told me that her ex had kicked her while she was pregnant, that he had pointed a loaded gun at her head when she was pregnant.
Officials not commenting on that or why cops on the scene didn't shoot Seidel as he fired his weapon, leading to an hour standoff.
They should have moved in and shot him. They should have. They should have prevented all of this. They didn't move in because, again, if that's what you do, the only thing one of them probably more than likely didn't do is kill their wife. But I guarantee they do the same thing he's been doing that caused her to not want to be around his ass.
In part, we were able to get him to surrender because a cell phone that contained photographs of his children was passed to him.
Seidel being held on a $2 million bail, his attorney saying he'll fight that. At Superior Court in Freehold, New Jersey, Christine Sloan, CBS 2 News.
Investigators say Seidel was off duty when he fired his weapon, adding that they don't know exactly what his daughter saw.
Now we're going to go up north, past Middlesex County, up to
a police lieutenant is on the wrong side of the law, arrested in a double shooting. Prosecutors say that the man shot and killed his estranged wife and wounded another man as well.
This is Newark.
CBS New York's Ellis Gaynor has more from Morris County.
The streets around Mirror Place have been closed for about 17 hours, and the crime scene unit from the Morris County Sheriff's Department.
Now this is a Newark lieutenant. He was off duty. They say he killed his ex-wife and shot the guy that she was with. Nutty. Police officers.
Department has been here pretty much this entire time. They're looking at not only that White House on the corner there where the woman lived, but also the next door neighbor's house and the house next to that. All day we've been talking to neighbors who say they heard multiple gunshots before 11:30. Neighbors in the White Rock section of Jefferson Township near Mirror Place heard a series of pops. Did you know it was gunshot?
At first, no, we thought it was fireworks.
We heard what we thought was fireworks, and then some yelling.
But it was actually gunshots. The Morris County Prosecutor's Office says a woman was shot and killed, and a man was also seriously injured. Police confirmed that Newark Police Lieutenant John Formisano, a 24-year veteran of the force, was arrested in Livingston Township in connection with the shooting. We're told he fled to his mother's house there. A man who answered the door at that home in Livingston would not answer any questions. Can you tell us any more about the arrest?
I can tell you go away.
Neighbors identify Formisano's estranged wife as Christy.
She ran to the next door neighbor's house, but it was late. People are sleeping. And she was, please open the door. And then she went to the next neighbor's house, and he followed her right down to the house and shot her on the front.
I'm ages 10 and under, but that they were not injured. Rachel Verone had just pulled into her parents' driveway around the corner after the shooting took place.
I heard a woman saying, just in a very calm, quiet voice, stay there, stay there.
Verone says that voice was talking to Formisano's 10-year-old daughter, who was in a window of the home. She says she saw a SWAT team positioned outside. Some neighbors who did not want to appear on camera said they only recently learned that the couple was no longer together and that Formisano seemed like a great guy. Barone tells us, like everyone else around here, he's shocked.
We would talk over here all the time. I mean, he was nice, but obviously he snapped.
Newark police say Formisano has been suspended without pay. And again, as you can see behind me, the investigation very much ongoing. We're in Jefferson Township, New Jersey. That's Morris County. Alice Gaynor, CBS, and New York.
Now, this officer is going to attempt to tell his side of the story of what happened.
You were put in that same position again, officer.
As I said yesterday,
the same thing.
I wouldn't think it. I'll do it again. My actions that day.
Now, not the officer, the lieutenant that killed his wife. This is a officer who was indicted. He was just reckless. Traffic stop in Newark. The guy fled. Okay, he fled. This cop got out 3 times as they was chasing the guy that fled, and bust shots every time he got out. Jumped out of the car, ran on the side of the car. He said that he was afraid for his life. How were you afraid for your life when you were the aggressor? The car fled going into the opposite direction away from you, but you jumped out the patrol car, your partner telling you to chill, relax. Why are you doing this? But you jump out the car, run on the side of the car, shoot the passenger in the head, shoot the driver in the head, killing him. But you said you would do it again. That's why his dumb ass got life in prison.
Is the reason why I'm talking right now. If not, I would be at my funeral or some sort. I know I wouldn't be.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Seeing the gun pointed directly at your face, it changed.
The gun wasn't pointed directly at his face. The car was going in the other direction. You jumped out the patrol car from your safety to approach on the side, shooting into the van. So how was the people that's driving away, how was they the aggressor? How did they point the gun in your face? And not only that, you wasn't the initial officer on the scene that conducted the stop. It was someone else. You responded. So therefore, your credibility is shot, and what you're saying makes no sense as far as you fearing for your life, because not at one time was your life in danger. People who would probably be motorists, life probably was in danger because you were chasing and they was trying to get away. Motorists were in more danger than you. But you jumped out after being told not to do it, ran on the side of the vehicle and shot inside the vehicle. That's reckless.
Changes the way anybody's gonna act. If you see the full video, you'll see I'm the only officer that approached that vehicle with that close proximity. I'm the only one that got close enough to see right through those tents. I seen the gun pointed at me. I knew lives were threatened in the community by the way he was driving, as well as that seeing that barrel pointed directly at me. I knew I had to do something. I told my partner the gun was pointed at me. He was at high alert, knowing that somebody is going to lose their life. He was willing to take somebody in the community or mine. The only reason why I fired at that moment, I was so close to the vehicle. That was the first time I came to the vehicle. I opened the door. The gun is getting pointed at me. At that moment, I'm worrying about my life.
There were other cops on the crossfire.
I didn't see that other vehicle on the other side, I had to worry about my life and getting home to my kids at that moment. So I fired.
Reckless. Absolutely reckless. And he was convicted in Newark. He was convicted. He thought he was going to get away with it. He was convicted, rightfully so. I'm going to land my plane right here. And hopefully this is pertinent information about how many cops are domestic abusers. 41% of police officers are domestic abusers. But when they respond to domestic abuse, they want to act like a hero. What they say to a man who abused his partner, his wife, whatever it is to him, or a female who does the same thing, what they say to them is correct. It shouldn't happen. But 41% of them do it. And it's just as wrong. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's more wrong because they are someone who are supposed to, they want to be seen as heroes. So why can't they be the hero domestically in their own home? So if you are in your home beating the hell out your children and your wife, or it could be your children's mother or your girlfriend, if you're beating the hell out of her, how can you be seen as a hero? You're not. If you are a domestic abuser, you are self-righteous for even going to those calls, sticking your chest out, trying to save somebody, because somebody needs to be saved from you. This is The Enemy's Public. I am Bro.Nasir. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section. Peace.